And I would like to invite our chairpersons, Dr. Kalpana, Dr. Ipsita Basu, Dr. Ramesh M. Mehta. I like to welcome all these chairpersons. If you can just unmute your mic, doctors.
Good evening to everybody.
Good evening, Dr. Ipsita. You are the only chairperson right now for this session who's present. So thank you so much. And
That's
we have
what.
our speaker as well. Dr. Kavita is joined us. Dr. Kavita, welcome. And I would like to request our chairperson to please introduce our speaker. Dr. Basu, if you can unmute yourself.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening. I was just checking. I think as per schedule, the first speaker is Dr. Monideepa Banerjee.
Yes, unfortunately,
we do have her here. Dr. Monideepa would be speaking of allergic conjunctivitis in children, something that we are all very familiar around. Do we have her on the board?
No, we don't see her anywhere around here.
So should we start with Dr. Kavita, who will
Yes.
be speaking on dry eye?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, so something a dry eye that we only see in adults, but when children come up with these symptoms, we probably often miss them. So Dr. Kavita, for dry eye in children.
Yeah, I'll just share the slides.
Thank you.
Is it visible?
No, Dr. Kavita, it's not yet visible.
Yeah, I'll just share it again.
We are not yet able to see your screen.
Yeah, I'm just trying it, sir.
Yes, doctor. Now you can, yes.
Yeah, is it same now?
It's visible and you are ready to go, doctor.
Thank you so much. I want to thank the organizing team at the outset for giving me an opportunity and giving a topic which is on the rise now, dry eyes in children. I have no financial interest in this presentation. Just looking at the definition, it has a very big definition, but I would like to brief it up by saying it's a multifactorial disease of the ocular surface, where there is a loss of homeostasis of the tear film. Thereby, there is tear film instability and rise in hyperosmolarity associated with ocular surface inflammation and damage, and also a neurosensory abnormality, which plays an important role in this multifactorial condition. Basically, we have to look at the mechanism of dry eyes to understand it in detail. There are two things. One, either there is decreased tear production or there is an increased tear evaporation from the ocular surface. Dry eyes in children, as we have observed in our practice, it's commonly overlooked because children complain less. But why do children complain less? Because they have fewer symptoms as compared to adults with similar stages of ocular surface damage. This could be for even cataract surgery, post-cataract surgery, when they complain of pain. Adults complain more of pain than children. Coming to diagnosis of dry eyes in children, medical history is a very, very powerful diagnostics tool, but it's of limited use because children hardly complain anything and parents are as ignorant as possible. So only one thing which keeps coming into my mind is that we need to keep probing again and again in a different way so that we get the answer out of their mouths. Tests are also troublesome in children, but of course some children do cooperate well for the various tests which I will describe later. Redness, watering, and photophobia, blepharospasm, or photophobia, etc. These symptoms and signs, usually we frequently get misjudged and then, make a wrong diagnosis to allergy or trauma or infection or whatever. But we have to keep in mind dry eyes. The most important is to have an external examination. We have to look for skin and the general appearance of the child, nutritional status, skin, lids, and most important, which can give us a clue in diagnosis, the blink rate. We have to observe for blink rate. And I think now from past 1.5, 2 years, and maybe past 5 years, I think we should have considered, or from now on, at least we should consider the blink rate, which can give a clue to dry eyes. The other investigations or the clinical tests that we need to do is the tear meniscus height, Shammas test, and tear film osmolarity and analysis if we have the facility. Yet another basic and important test is the tear film breakup time using fluorescent stain. And fluorescent staining also helps us in understanding the ocular surface irregularity, the way it stains up. We can grade the dry eyes. There are various grading techniques. We use the Oxford grading. Most important is the meibography, or to understand what is happening in the meibomian glands, and the conjunctival impression cytology, which will give a clue to the goblet cell function. So all these tests are essential in diagnosing whether one or two factors or multifactorial components are involved in dry eyes, and accordingly we need to tackle. Let me talk about a simple case which came to our clinic and how we went about. An 8-year-old child came with irritation, rubbing of eyes, and unable to open her eyes for a longer period, especially while reading and writing. They had consulted many doctors and they were treated as allergic conjunctivitis. Basically, she came from a metropolitan city. So there, dust pollution is one of the common thing, and everybody has either allergic bronchitis or allergic conjunctivitis. She had no symptomatic relief, and we examined and we found everything within normal limits. We did even near point of convergence and accommodation. And we thought it must be allergy because she came from metro city, and we advised her to continue the same treatment. But after a week, the mother was apprehensive and she brought the child back. No, we are not happy. You please look into it. There's something beyond this. So I made the child sit in front of me and we started asking questions. So this is where the importance of asking history is, So we asked her, then she said, the child said that she preferred indoors and she's intolerant to air conditioned fan, and she felt better when she cried and had hot water bath. Probably hot water bath was stimulating, so there was some secretions, and so post bath she was much better. So this gave me a clue that it could be dry eyes, and I went ahead doing the Shammas test and we found it was 6 and 8. So instead of allergic conjunctivitis, a diagnosis of dry eyes was made, and we started on lubricants and cyclosporin straight away because already she had gone around visiting doctors. Now that's about the case scenario. Let's look at the risk factors. All of us know the most important and oft-spoken now in children and adults, I would say, is a smartphone. And there are studies, past studies, which shows that it is a risk factor. What really happens here, the normal blink rate, which is between 14 to 18, drops down to a single digit. Therefore, evaporation increases and causes dry eyes. Along with that, there is associated ocular fatigue and myopic shift. Studies also have proven that once we stop using the smartphones or the gadgets for 4 weeks continuously, these patients who have the subjective symptoms and objective signs have really improved. So I would like to say that we need to encourage outdoor activity in these children. What has COVID-19 done on dry eyes? The COVID era has definitely increased the incidence of dry eyes. 65% of us have increased our screen time, spending as much as 30% or more with the screens. And in India, about 80% of students are using the smartphones for various activities, basically in the name of online learning. Mask wearing is also an important emerging factor for dry eyes. Second factor is the ocular allergy. Studies have shown that there are higher prevalence of dry eyes in children with allergic conjunctivitis and vice versa. That is, allergic conjunctivitis could be complicated by dry eyes. So it is quite difficult in differentiating between the two, but simple tests and high degree of suspicion, we can tackle both. Factor 3 is contact lens use. As I said, children complain less. So with contact lens, the children do have dry eyes, but they complain less because of better care probably and difference in the reporting systems. The various systemic associations are rheumatoid arthritis and diabetes. All of these have associations in ocular film instability. Then we need to evaluate these children in detail for systemic conditions. As you can see in the picture, there can be unstability of film or sometimes corneal melt and complicated cataract with band-shaped keratopathy. A simple fluorescein staining will help us in detecting these lesions early. Coming to factor 5 and the last one, the environmental causes of dry eyes. We have to ask for general behavior of the children and their screen or the gadget using time and the kind of gadgets that they're using, nutritional status, especially vitamin A deficiency, chemical injuries, which we quite often seen in our clinical practice. They can have associated dry eyes. And last but not the least is the medications. In teenagers, oral retinoids for acne, topical beta blockers, olopatadine, and NSAIDs. These are some common topical drugs which can cause dry eyes. So management is treat the underlying condition and modify the environmental factors. So in mild cases, we can think of preservative-free artificial tears. In children, we would prefer the gel preparation because it can stay for a longer time, and tear drops, they may not be really compliant. And yet another important thing is decreasing the screen time. That is following the 20-20 rule. For every 20 minutes, it's advisable to take a break for 20 seconds and look at something at 20 feet. In moderate cases, we would like to add anti-inflammatory and steroids if the inflammation is more. Autologous serum has been tried, and trehalose is a new drug which protects the epithelium. So along with the artificial tears, we can use these drugs. In severe cases, of course, I use cyclosporin and tacrolimus. Both are immunomodulators, and cyclosporin helps in tear production, which we have seen clinically in many situations. And steroids if the inflammation is more. A newer drug which is now been detected or found out by some companies, varenicline nasal spray. So this brings about tear production. Surgical management, yes, not routinely done, although these can be advocated depending on case to case. Punctal plugs, lateral tarsorrhaphy, lid corrective surgeries depending on what the lid problem is. And in severe dry eyes and ocular surface problem, AMT and mucous membrane transplantation can be tried. And the newer one is the PROS contact lens, which actually protects the epithelium and hence the ocular surface. Some people have tried even the minor salivary gland transplantation. Of course, we have not done here. Yet another case scenario which I would like to highlight and where we went wrong in diagnosing was a 4-year-old child who was brought to us unable to open eyes in light since 4 to 5 months. We examined the anterior segment and posterior segment was normal and refraction showed of +6 diopters. So we prescribed glasses. Symptoms persisted and the child was brought back to us, and I decided that we will do an examination under short general anesthesia. And we took at the fundus again and we did ERG. That also was normal. So I wanted to basically rule out cone rod dystrophy. Later, systemic examination was also done. I referred to a pediatrician. She was normal. Then months later, the child was brought again with the same kind of closing of eyes. So I did repeat the examination under general anesthesia. I don't know, somehow I got this feeling that I should do the Schummer's test. This is many years back, actually. It was about 2 and 3 millimeter diagnosis. It could be dry eyes, and artificial tears was started. she started feeling much better. Then later I used a cyclosporin, and the tear secretion had increased and the child was much comfortable. Take home message: usual symptoms, minimal signs, keep in mind to rule out dry eyes. Look beyond lubricants. We need to address systemic conditions and the triggering factors, not just trying to treat the patient with lubricants. At the same time, we need to keep in mind that drugs should be kept at minimum. Last but not the least, we need to educate and counsel the parents. Thank you.
Thank you so much, doctor, for a lovely speech. So since we do not have our next speaker, so what we suggest is, if we have any kind of questions, so we can have an interactive session right now. Also from the attendees, if you have any kind of questions for Dr. Kavita, so you can please put it on your chat. Thank you.
Yes, it would be a wonderful discussion, but thank you, Dr. Kavita. I think sometimes like we are seeing today's scenario, some of these kids, when they complain of burning sensation, they get lost in the world of refractive errors, strabismus, and cataract. That's what has happened. Our first sessions have been so interesting that somewhere we fail to highlight that even such small children who come with allergic conditions and lid problems, and especially CVI, which Dr. Niranjan was going to speak about, they get lost. But I think whoever in the board, Dr. Jitendra, Dr. Kavita, Dr. Magdalene, if you wanted, we can have a discussion on the same.
The second case which I mentioned, she was a very young girl. It was difficult, and I was also that time, 8-9 years back, we were not diagnosing dry eyes so commonly as today. Now the allergy problem is high. If you take refractive error, the astigmatism is high, myopia is high. We're all concentrating only on those things. But because of the gadgets that we are using, we are forgetting about the dry eyes and the lubricants that we have to use. What is essential is many times when this is a tertiary center, so when children are brought, they're using all sorts of drugs. What we have to keep in mind is how these drugs behave on the corneal epithelium, especially in children. Even simple antibiotics, we cannot predict how they react. This is what my personal experience is. See, in adults, we use levofloxacin left and right, but children we cannot use. We have seen epithelial plaques which grow up so fast and deposits. So we have to understand, especially in dry eyes, I think the kind of drugs that we are using, and I have no financial interest in saying that I like cyclosporin or not. Not only it takes care of allergy, but there is comfort, maybe because of the tear secretion which increases using cyclosporin. Tacrose is also giving very good results in controlling the inflammation and the allergy part, but I am not very sure about how it gives the relief to as regards to tear film stability. That I am not sure, but comparing between these two, I prefer cyclosporin. So I don't use any artificial tears. This is an additional drug which we are giving to the child, and the parents, they may not be compliant. So probably we could use a gel preparation in such situations.
Dr. Jethani, would you like to comment on this? Are you there on board? I think Dr. Jethani.
Yeah,
yes. Good evening, sir. Good evening. Yes.
Yeah, actually, I absolutely agree with her. I use a lot of cyclosporin. Tacrolimus, not very common, but yes, I do use it. And another drop which I'm fond of is with no financial interest, chloroquine eye drop by FDC, That is also a very good drop, especially for allergic conjunctivitis. When since we know that these are all growing eyes, and we may end up into having cataracts and glaucomas secondary to usage of steroids, especially in allergic conjunctivitis. We get a lot of patients who are already chronic users of these drops. I would just take this opportunity to of this forum, and I would say that I tried to search a lot about getting a OSDI score kind of survey for children, but I could not find any. Probably because we most of the our ophthalmology itself is so much biased towards adult ophthalmology that we don't have. I mean,
The
there's
questionnaire.
small things we can discuss it whole day, but for kids we don't have there are 25 or plus questionnaires for dry eye, VFQ 25, DEQ 5, OSDI, Delphi, DEWS, MEDUS. Plenty of people are finding out dry, and no, there is absolutely no score for children. And if it is there, I would love if somebody can share me a link, because I have been trying it out for changing it to local language also, but there are no robust these things for children. That was when pandemic started. There are no good ways of evaluation or evaluating that how good this would be for children. So uh, very relevant things, especially post pandemic, when screen
Right.
time has increased so much.
How would you see, in your clinical practice? I know though blepharokeratoconjunctivitis will go more to the cornea guy later on, but for follow-up in case for the mild ones with a red eye and running around trying different antibiotics, and then you diagnose it as it has a component of blepharokeratoconjunctivitis with the meibomian gland disease. How do you see that? Because Ma'am, Kavita ma'am?
Yeah. This is a very good question, actually. Many times, we are not evaluating. This is what I was trying to, we learn by, falling down, right? We learn by making mistakes. When we become emotional in our practice, if a patient is coming repeatedly, and if the mother is bringing, especially, we become emotional, then we want to think beyond what we are treating. Usually such kind of patients go to cornea and then they come back to pediatric department as well. That's where, I start evaluating them on systemic basis. I want to rule out if there's any associated tuberculosis or any other bacterial infection or whatever. So I get them evaluated. If they are not getting healed, if they don't show signs, especially so in such situations, I get them evaluated systematically. So I have set of pediatricians. They will do all the required investigations. If it is there and if it's treated, many times I have seen tuberculosis is underlying there in many kids. So all that it needs is a ESR, Monto, and a chest X-ray. And of course, pediatricians do, if they clinically feel that they have a doubt, they give an empirical treatment. So many times this tuberculosis is one thing which I have seen in my practice. And of course, other systemic conditions also can be done, and nothing wrong in getting them evaluated. Most of the time, when we put a tick in the investigation slip, there are some institutes which practice a complete investigations to be carried out. But many times due to financial problem and other things, we just think whatever comes to our brain at that point of time, we just put a tick on the required investigations. It's a good practice to, get the whole battery of tests done so that we don't really miss on any simple diagnosis. So I would like to do a systemic evaluation if they're chronically having blepharokeratoconjunctivitis.
That's it. Because sometimes we do see, in fact, a child, that's what you said, regularly coming to our OPD with dry eye, and then suddenly the mother says, yes, he has aphthous ulcers also. So immediately you feel that it's a secondary dry eye and you must rule out other systemic. So probably like the way you said, we could be the first persons to alert them to a really bad systemic disease. So
Yeah,
keeping
true.
that in mind, dry eye is a very pertinent topic, though adults comprise maximum, but children should never be left out or felt out of this thing.
The thing is, they don't complain anything relating to dry eyes. As I
Yes,
mentioned, you
yes.
do a cataract surgery in adult, even after 3 months, if they have slight irritation, they will tell you because you operated on my cataract. Because you operated on my cataract long back, I'm having irritation. So,
True.
you know, it all goes, if they have a headache after 6 months, it's because of the cataract surgery that you did.
And a
So-
very photophobic child will remain at home, and the parents will think that the child does not like outdoor activities.
Yeah,
that is how adaptation in children are. And I really liked it, ma'am, when you said that history taking is really important in us, because most of our findings come from those clues that we get from discussing the child with the parent, the whereabout, the activities. And
more than parent, I think if the child is above 5 years, I think we can talk to the child itself, because they give, you know,
yes,
they're true. They're very much true in whatever they want to tell.
We still don't have anybody from our other rest of speakers joining in. I am afraid, I think the because we could go on talking about dry eye and never get bored, but then Dr.
We can say that it's unfortunately fortunate or fortunately unfortunate. The other speakers are not there. And if you would like to wish to continue on this, we can definitely do that.
It would be good if we had others also. But is there any kind of intimation that they would join, or should we?
We are trying our level best if they can.
Right. I just give you, I have an emergency call. I just attend and join back.
Because we had a lovely lineup of speakers. Dr. Niranjan was supposed to be here, Dr. Varada Gokhale, Dr. Rohit Agarwal, Dr. Manideepa, but unfortunately, somehow they are not able to join us.
So I would like to ask Dr. Kavita if there is a question with that we can circulate in the OPD and get some, if we can get some information when the parents are sitting outside, if the complaints, I know since in pediatric ophthalmology, it would be very difficult to, you know, get a questionnaire-based survey, because questionnaire-based survey rather questionnaire-based evaluation, because it would be very difficult that, you know, just without looking at the child, surveys and questionnaires are not very useful in kids, because, you know, they would be saying something and they will be having something else. But if we can have a consensus or have a simple questionnaire, which my aim is to give it to the schools so that, you know, they can also find out, because now it has become so bad that, you know, there's a huge, and schools are just not relenting despite, you know, giving them, I am very vocal about reducing the screen timing, at least in our city. I had written to our district collector also, but schools have their own issues and they have their own points when they argue this. And it is very difficult to convince them that screen time needs to be cut down, not only on myopia front, but on other problems as well. So is there
we could have a question? No, I don't think there's a questionnaire here. We could frame a questionnaire.
We can frame it, yes.
We could frame one.
Because
definitely the way COVID is also increasing, and, you know, another 1 year, we don't know what is going to happen. All these conditions are going to definitely increase. There's no doubt about it. And if you analyze the whole world, India is just, you know, copying, or what is happening in India is much later than what is happening in the Western countries and the East Asian countries. So articles which I have put in the presentation is all about 2014 or so. So yes, my point is, we need to stick on to our own culture. This is, instead of questionnaire, Dr. Jitendra, I would say we should try to retain our culture. The food habits, what our parents or grandparents used to make at home. It has everything in that, and the way we used to play outside. But the thing is, lifestyle, we are just copying the Western. We want to play badminton or table tennis, it is virtual on the TV screen or in the laptop or your iPad. Why not go play outside?
So that's, I mean,
I
If you
think,
want to do any game, it is on the
See,
gadget again.
Doctor,
It's really pathetic.
Dr. Kavita, I
It's
do
what-
agree with you, but I think with
you are
this
absolutely
technology in onset, I think there is no
Right.
way. But Dr.
I think
Jethani,
it's
the
a
way he
cycle,
said,
it's a cycle.
Yes.
We have to go up, fall down.
and then come down. But
then we
I
realize-
think I also think that if Dr. Jethani, the way he says, if we actually can put the health scare in front of, like if they get scared of their health and the viewing time and the amount spent, the time spent on the screen, then it becomes a crisis that we are trying to portray, which will probably come up in the next, because all the computer vision syndromes that we talked about in the 1990s, they're all like after 10 years of long hours, they do have a fatigueness. The whole thing, I'm talking about the whole discomfort. So these children, if what you say, we also see that another 1 or 2 years probably and especially the
No, it
junior
is-
kids, even if the
that
middle
is what-
school opens up.
It is more severe. It is more severe in pediatric age group because see what happens is normally adult ophthalmologists think that pediatric age group means it is a small adult type. The problem is that these all compound in children because they are into their development age. The thing doesn't develop. Let their lacrimal gland function, let their meibomian gland, let their tear film. They have never seen what is normal. Before even becoming normal, before the development has taken place, we are robbing that person of sunlight itself. The kids are not even going outside, let alone
Absolutely.
physical activity. They are saying vitamin D is a problem. Vitamin D is not a problem. Going outside is a problem. How would you get
Not going
vitamin D if you
outside.
don't go into the? I mean, vitamin D has absolutely nothing to do with this. It is about outdoors. I mean, she's absolutely right. But unfortunately, the problem is that there is too much advancement. Too many people saying that Western culture is better. There are too many people saying too many things, and
We don't know
we all
which
become
one to
in minority when we become more passionate.
And doctors, with due respect, I also
So that-
feel even the parents are somewhere responsible for all.
Yeah. Correct. I wanted to tell that point.
They are highly
We need to
responsible. I'm not a doctor though, but I'm a parent.
No, I'm giving a baseline. Whenever we treat a kid, we always say that it is the parents which need to be counseled and not the kid.
Not the
Kid is
kids.
just
Absolutely correct.
reflection of what
Absolutely correct.
parents are doing. So it's absolutely parents, nothing to do with kids.
Because the
At
way
least yes, Indians will be like that. We are still not reached to that level of Western culture where the kid will call police if you slap him. So we have still not reached that level. But maybe in another 5 years we will be reaching that level also.
Because we had a very adventurous childhood where we used to go down, play with our friends, and our parents used to literally scold us for not coming back home.
True.
That was the best part.
Yeah.
Because the parents are scolding the kids to get out of the house, to leave the screen, to leave the TV, the mobile. I have a kid who's 3 years old. Believe you me, doctors, my kid does not eat food without a mobile phone, without watching a video on a mobile phone. So
Because he knows that there is the option.
absolutely. So
That's the
and the parents are having two sides of it. Side
Yes,
A
yes.
is like the child is picking up a lot of things sitting at home because he has missed his play group, he's missed his nursery, everything he's missed, he cannot go. Say even though then he speaks a lot of poetry and all, so that's a plus point. But the con is, yes, he's not going out of the house. So that's I think something very serious.
See, my point is that if he doesn't speak poetry at that age, it's all right. He will be speaking after a couple of years. The problem with us, we want them to grow up quickly. That is our problem. That is not a kid's problem. We expect too many things too early. We don't want to give him time.
I think we have one or two people who have just joined us. So we would like to just give them a quick update that external disease and miscellaneous topics, these were the topics we were talking about. So if you have any kind of questions, we have Dr. Kavita here. We have Dr. Ipshita also. So those doctors who have just joined us in this session, if you have any questions related to this particular topic, you can definitely feel free and open up, and you can definitely ask the questions to the doctors present here. Okay, so I guess we don't have any questions. We don't have more participants. But Dr. Kavita, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
speech. I would also like to thank Dr. Ipshita for chairing the session. Also, I would like to thank Dr. Jitendra. You kept, the discussion was more lively, and first time ever, the virtual silence is killing. It's even more dangerous now.
True. Thank you so much.